Hello, howdy, and good day, my fellow gamers and game devs. My name is Ricky, and welcome to Devlog number 3 of Cosmic Renegade. Today, we are going to talk about the heart of your video game, and that is the core gameplay mechanic loop. Throughout this video, I'm going to share how you can come up with your own interesting loops with some steps that I've learned over the past few months. But before we begin, as I mentioned in the last video, my goal was to reach 100 subscribers by the end of the year, and guess what? As of this recording, there are now 5 of you beautiful people. Woo! You're awesome, and I wanted to reward good behavior by publishing this devlog earlier than I normally post anything. So keep it up, guys. 95 more to go. And if you're new to the channel, and you're interested in following along this devlog series, please consider subscribing. Without further ado, let's begin. The core loop is the heart of your game. It is the series of actions or tasks that a player does over and over and over in your game. It makes up the foundation of what a game developer can build on, and a well-designed loop will keep the player engaged and wanting to progress without feeling like it's getting old or repetitive. For example, in the game of life, the player goes through many of life's milestones such as college, raising a family, buying a home, and working until eventually retiring. Whoever has the most assets by the end of the game, i.e. money, is declared the winner. Let's take a closer look at how this loop works in the game of life. First, the player spins the spinner. Then, they move their token on the board. And then, depending on where you land, you either get a penalty or a reward. Or you have to make a decision that leads to a reward or penalty later. Simple, really. But where does the fun come from? Looking at this deceptively simple loop, it's hard to imagine that the game of life would be fun at all, right? I mean, it is just a game of luck, isn't it? But that's where the game of life shines, in its essence. Every move, every reward, and every penalty is a reflection of real life. And we have fun playing it because it provides us with a parallel to our own lives. I mean, it's the same reason that The Sims was such a successful game. Both The Sims and the game of life build on the same fundamental essence, providing parallels to real life, even though their core gameplay loops are drastically different. And that's the goal, to create a simple game loop that on its surface might be similar to other games, but is fun and engaging enough because of the essence of your game. But what is essence? And how do you come up with your own game loop? Step 1 is to write that essence statement. An essence statement captures the core experience you want to provide players. It typically includes the game's genre, theme, key gameplay mechanics, and unique selling points. It may also include information about the target audience and the desired emotional and psychological response you want to get from players. A famous example that I found in an article online was Doom's essence statement. It reads, "There is no taking cover or stopping to regenerate health as you beat back Hell's raging demon hordes. Combine your arsenal of futuristic and iconic guns, upgrades, movement, and an advanced melee system to knock down, slash, stomp, crush, and blow apart demons in creative and violent ways." Now, as we can read from this essence statement, Doom is a fast-paced, heavy metal, ultra-violent game, and boy do we love it for that. The statement even hints to an advanced melee system and a few player actions like knockdown, slash, stomp, crush, and blow apart that will surely be present in their core mechanic loop. This is from Cosmic Renegade, my game. It reads, "You're just a regular guy trying to make ends meet in the big galaxy. Manage and upgrade your ship and crew, trade goods or smuggle contraband, hunt down outlaws or become one yourself. Be good, be bad, it don't matter out here, cowboy." Now, the main character in my game is an average Joe, which is completely different from Doom's main character. In fact, one of the major plot points is that your crewmates are a lot more experienced than you in the spacefaring business. But since you own the ship, and you're the boss, you're the one who has to make the decisions as captain. The second thing about my game is that there are several actions that you can do, with each one having a quote-unquote morally alternative counterpart. The statement even says that being good or bad doesn't matter. It's not about good or evil, it's about whatever you want it to be about. It's completely up to the player how they want to make ends meet. So if you're still having trouble coming up with an essence statement, check out my last devlog on a 2-page game development document, or GDD. This is a shorter version of like the multi-page traditional GDD that's present in the game industry, and I think it's perfect for first-time indie devs who just want a place to get started. There's a link in the description to the template, and really your GDD should help you identify who exactly you're making this game for, and thus give you clues as to what your essence statement really needs to be. Now that you've written an essence statement for your game, you're ready to start drafting some gameplay loops. I personally prefer to think of all the actions your player will perform in the game to get started. This was my very first gameplay loop. The player would start by traveling to their destination planet, usually wherever the next mission is located. And then once they reach it, they'd have to manage resources like fuel, paying the crew, buying supplies for the next trip, etc. Then they'd do whatever business there was to be done, be it combat, missions, or trading cargo to make money. And lastly, the player would have to then decide where to spend that cash that they gained. They can either reinvest it in their ship or choose to give it to their character's family, for which there are deadlines. As you can see, my first go at making a core gameplay loop is packed with a bunch of activities, and it's easy to kind of get lost in all the details. Looking at this, it's hard for me to tell what exactly is the heart of my game. Step 3 is to remove unnecessary parts. And I mean strip it all down to the bare minimum. This is going to be the hardest part. If you're anything like me, you hate to strip away your own ideas until they're butt naked. That's just me. But trust me, that's a good thing. Your goal right now should be to find the strongest bones of your game. Underneath all that clutter, you can hopefully find a simplified version of your game that is fun all on its own. And that's the key, all on its own. Whatever that is the foundation of your game that you can build on later. This is what mine ended up looking like. As you can see, at its core, Cosmic Renegade is a resource management game. This is significant because this type of game is going to attract a very different player base than if, say, I was making an action RPG. Now, does that mean there won't be any action or RPG elements? Heck no! I'm making this game with D&D players in mind, after all. You can bet your butts that there will be an exploding ship and roleplay relevant to the story. And by ship, I mean ships, plural. Lots of them, probably. However, those will be the meat of the game rather than the bones that it stands on, if that makes any sense. Secondly, this simplified gameplay loop informs me that the first demo I should really be making should be all about traveling the galaxy, making money, and then making the player choose where to allocate those funds. And honestly, that very well could be a game all on its own. But I didn't actually do this for my first demo, as some of you might know. I'll explain why in the next section. Step 4 is to add some parts back in to form a complete vision of your game. But I want you to be careful with this step. There is a big danger of scope creep, meaning adding more and more parts to your game indefinitely until it's way too big to ever finish. Some days I think that I'm in trouble with that. However, I believe that having a strong vision and end goal is just as, or even more important than the journey itself. From the latest step, I identified the core of the game, but I felt like it didn't really represent what was in my head. I mean, it was shaping up to be kind of like a trading simulator game, but in space. So I added some parts back in. And boom, there you go. I've decided that combat and trading cargo are essential to making my world feel alive. I've also separated the activities that a player can do in space versus on planets or on stations, and finally right before departing for their next destination. One of the key things that I added back in is the decision to send some funds back to their family or to reinvest in their ship and crew. That decision is a crucial part of the game itself, and I really want players to experience that. I think that's important enough to make that distinction in the gameplay loop. Well, here we are. The fifth and final step is to playtest a whole bunch. As you may have heard, game development is an iterative process, meaning that you should be constantly refining and tweaking the game mechanics and loops until they're just right. The best way to do this is to develop minimum viable products, or MVPs. Here's the definition of an MVP that I like the most: the smallest thing that you can do to learn something new. And that's it. With an MVP, all you're trying to do is learn from potential players what works, what doesn't work, and why. It is not meant to be a complete product, even though product is in the name. Usually, you just want to test one or two mechanics to find out what you need to change, if anything. Remember, that's your decision. Now for a big brain question. Do you need to code to make your first MVP? My answer for any game out there is heck no. The truth is you can get pretty far and without any code and get a ton of feedback. I wish I knew this, but when I first started, for most games, posting concept art and GIFs will give you a huge first wave of feedback. Like, for example, the first tree is a shining example of how art inspired a lot of the development, right? And in fact, on the developer's channel, there's a video on there talking about how posting GIFs on Reddit ultimately led to the game to be viral on Steam. By the way, the first tree's developer, David, seems like one of the best human beings on the planet. And even if you don't want to subscribe to my channel, please go and subscribe to his. He's more than earned it. But if your game is strategy or turn-based, there's an even better way for you to test before you code. For example, you can use Owlbear like I did, a popular D&D virtual tabletop, to guide players through like the prologue of your game, just like I did. With this, I was able to validate the beginning of my story, the world itself, and the initial motivations of the main character. Yeah, I didn't use it to test any mechanics yet, but now I know that whatever those initial motivations are, they're solid enough and interesting enough that the players that I've tested with really want to keep going. And that's a great sign. And for combat, I have this tabletop battle board with all of the mechanics able to be played with pen and paper and dice. This has really helped me round out like ship creation, combat abilities, game balance, I still need to tweak that, and mechanics unique to my game like the damage, heat, power, and like the action queue system. And I did that all without writing any code. And I've got to say, going codeless after coming from code was probably the best time-saving thing I could have done. Like, I feel like I'm light years ahead of where I would be if I just kept coding out my game. In conclusion, knowing your game's core mechanic loop is essential to making a great game. Ultimately, effective mechanics are created through playtesting, iteration, and a deep understanding of what makes a game fun and engaging for your players. I hope that you found this video informative and helpful in creating your own game mechanic loops. So if you liked the video, please leave that like and subscribe to the channel for more game development topics in the future. For now, see you in space, cowboys. So I started as an indie game developer, but now I may have accidentally made a board game. Oh my gosh. One of the suggestions I got was to make a game handbook that explained the mechanics. And explain the mechanics, how to make your own ships and characters, and how to play my game. I think what I'm going to do is that it'll start off as a free downloadable PDF. I mean, it's literally a Google slide right now. But I can make it into a PDF. Eventually, I do kind of like the idea of turning it into a website for those of you that just want to implement some of Cosmic Renegade's game mechanics in your own D&D and tabletop games. I think the heat mechanic is really fun. I also like the damage system, able to hit different ship systems. So don't worry, I'm gonna basically make it free for anybody to use. Um, I'm pretty much done with playtesting it at this point, especially with the board game version of this game. I'm ready to start coding again, guys. Can't wait.